unceasing, unborn, unannihilated, not permanent, not coming, not going, without distinction, without identity. According to Nagarjuna, that is the emptiness that's at the heart of things. So I want you to look at this image. Depending on how you look at it, you either see it as the image of the rabbit's face or the image of a duck's face. But you can't really see it as both at once, because whichever one you see takes those features that are drawn in and uses them in one way that's kind of opposed to the way they're used in the other. So the thing that's interesting there is that those features come as a whole, right? And so you see that the fact of that thing being the dot in the corner of the eye is kind of inseparable from the fact of those things being the ears and the fact of that other thing being the mouth. But those features all come into being together at a stroke. Right, you suddenly see the duck face and all those duck features are there. And you can't have any of them without the others, right? So they originate together in a kind of codependence. None of them has a fully sort of self-defined identity that could be separated out from that co-happening. So somebody might ask you, why do you see it as a rabbit face? And you might say, oh, because of the ears over there and because of the little mouth, and using the word because, you're saying this is the cause of that. But in a way, it's not really true. It's because you see it as a rabbit face that you see those as ears, or that you see that as a mouth, right? So those things that you're identifying as the causes don't actually really precede the thing that you're claiming is caused by them. And they're as dependent upon it as it is upon them. So that's a striking thing in that experience. But the thing is, that structure you can see all over the place, right? If you imagine a fire that's burning, what's the relationship between the fire and the fuel? Well, in a way that you might think, oh, the fire is causing the fuel to burn. On the other hand, you might think the fuel is causing the fire to burn. And neither one of them can occur without the other, and neither one of them precedes the other. The fuel isn't fueling until the fire is firing. And the fire isn't firing until the fuel is fueling. So again, a burning thing is kind of an event that comes into being at a stroke. And within it, all of the relevant differentiatable features are codependent. They originate, they arise together, and none of them can be identified truly as the cause or the condition of the other in any discrete and separable sense. And it's, any act of consciousness is like that, right? You experience something and your awareness that something is the case, and the experience of contact, let's say that you're feeling something, or the eye with the light it's seeing or whatever, what it feels like for that to happen, however you're oriented towards it, your desires or whatever, those things, the consciousness, the contact, the feeling, the desire, they also, like all the different parts of the rabbit's face, are different facets of that one sudden happening that kind of emerged at a stroke. They all originate together in codependence, and none of them has an existence outside of that, and none of them can truly be identified as the cause or the condition of the other. And you'd say the same thing, if you analyzed anything that's in motion. You'd say the same thing if you analyzed any real action you took. If you really work at it, you'll see that those things all have the character of events where all the constitutive dimensions originate in codependence and don't have a kind of existence outside that, and can't really be organized towards each other in terms of priority or posteriority. So imagine you're a soccer player and it's game day, and so you go and you meet your buddy Angela on the field, and you're chatting about this and that, and one of you's carrying the soccer ball, and there's some big metal posts over there. But there are all these different things, And suddenly, boom, the whole thing is transformed, like going from the rabbit to the duck or the duck from the rabbit. Because suddenly, you're actually playing the game. And at that moment, those things which were discrete little parts of your weird perceptual world as you were walking around talking to your friend Angela are now suddenly elements of the soccer game. The goalposts, the offensive player who's coming towards you, the ball moving at you that you got to kick, this play that's going to be made. All of those things in the world are now things that you see as integrated in a kind of meaningful way, kind of like the elements of the rabbit's face. And you saw them differently a minute ago when you were walking around talking, but at a stroke, the event of participating in the soccer game happened, and those things took on that meaning, where, again, none of the things that you now see actually preceded that event. None of the things in the form you see them actually preceded that event. And the thing I really want to emphasize there is what happens to you too, because you suddenly became a soccer player, right? The experience of seeing those things in that way also couldn't be separated from you experiencing yourself as a soccer player, which doesn't so much mean saying to yourself, oh, I guess I'm a soccer player now. It means you inhabited a particular stance of desire toward that setting where it mattered to you that you get that goal in the net and that you stop that other person who's running at you, etc., etc., etc. And now imagine you're growing up, you discover at a certain point through the way mom and dad and brother and sister and grandma and grandpa and uncle and aunt and neighbors talk to you, you start to realize, oh, I'm a daughter. It's a view of who you are that goes together with a sense of what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to grow up into, what it will take to score a goal in life, so to speak. You grow up into assuming a certain sense of yourself, kind of like becoming a soccer player, which also goes hand in hand with grasping a certain way things fit together. But the truth is, that's really all just part of this codependent system, with you a participant in that too, that arose at a stroke as you adopted a certain way of seeing things as something. You've got the football player, you've got the daughter. What about the recognition of yourself as a self? And that idea that you're a self interacting with an independent, separately real world. Well, that too is a dependently originated way of seeing as. In recognizing that that is all dependently originated, we actually liberate ourselves. We didn't go anywhere else. You're still going to be experiencing the same thing. Nothing else has changed except that you've now seen this in a way for the dream or the projection that it is, and you no longer have to be bound by it. And so from the point of view of all the terms that you usually use to think about what reality is, this is not any of those. And so Nagarjuna says the truth of that is that it's emptiness. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means that whenever we turn to the world, as we always do, and take it up as this or that or whatever, what we're always going to be doing is taking up something that doesn't actually have that character. It's more like the non-determined possibility that now gets realized as this or that. So emptiness is that non-specified possibility for meaning that we are always taking up this way or that. So you could almost say that the emptiness is that sort of possibility that appears through whatever way you've actually taken it up. But it might be better to say it's that emptiness that precisely fails to appear in whatever you actually see.